The next generation of gaming systems are on their way next year with the PS5 and the Xbox Project Scarlet. And when both companies have talked about these new systems, the kind of normal stuff we usually expect to hear comes out, like more graphics power, better processors, all that good stuff. But one thing in particular that they're both really emphasizing this time around is upgrading from a standard traditional hard drive to an SSD. And the fact that they're emphasizing this is really important, because normally when people think about the performance of their systems, they focus on just the graphics card and processor, which are still very important, don't get me wrong, but oftentimes the method in which that we actually save data is really underappreciated, because it not only impacts how much stuff you can have saved on your console, but more importantly, how quickly you get through loading screens, because no one enjoys sitting through those. And that's why it's so important that game consoles are finally moving on to a more modern form of storage like SSDs. But the thing is, you don't actually have to wait for next generation consoles to make use of an SSD on the Xbox One or the PS4, because you can just grab a portable SSD like this one, the T5 from Samsung. Games have gotten a lot bigger this last generation. Part of that is because a lot more companies have been trying to embrace the concept of big open world games, which tend to be very large in size to begin with, but on top of that, a lot more games have now started to also try and make use of 4K textures, which allow for very beautiful looking games at high resolution, but comes with the trade-in of making games also a lot bigger. So much so that the initial storage for both systems is not going to be enough for most game libraries. I mean, when the PS4 and Xbox One first shipped, they had 500 gigabyte hard drives, which is nowhere near big enough for a library of games, especially when you consider how much space is initially taken up by the system's OS. Now, as time has gone on, both systems have moved on to having a different initial size of now having 1 terabyte, but honestly, even that is not really enough. I mean, if you're buying a lot of big name AAA games, especially digitally, that is just gonna end up taking up a lot of space, and if you ever wanna make room for more things, you have to deal with a constant cycle of deleting things, reinstalling things, deleting things, reinstalling things, and no one likes doing that. So that's why having additional storage is so important. That's where a portable SSD like the T5 comes in handy, because it allows you to do more of what you love. Let's actually take a look at the storage on one of my systems. One of the really cool things too about using a portable SSD on a current system right now is that you see the difference in loading times. SSDs are way faster than the hard drives that are built into your systems, and so by seeing how fast these load right now, you just get a little bit of a taste of how much faster next-gen systems are going to be when they actually have SSDs built in. For example, Red Dead Redemption 2, again, a really big game, also has really long load times. Normally, if you're starting up a new game using the internal stock hard drive of your system, it can take over a minute to get set up. Whereas if you have it loaded up on a T5, it almost cuts that time in half. Now, if you're not really familiar with storage technology and you're wondering why SSDs are so much faster than old school hard drives, it's because, well, honestly, hard drives just rely on outdated technology. The insides of them actually rely on moving parts, which takes up a lot more time than an SSD, which just has, well, no moving parts at all. It just relies on microchips. This not only makes SSDs faster than old school hard drives, but also makes them smaller and a lot more durable. That's one of the really cool things about getting a T5 like this, is that you can get storage sizes as large as 2 terabytes, and it still just fits nice and neatly in your pocket, no problem whatsoever. That's another really cool thing, by the way, about using a T5 with your gaming systems, because we've already talked about the benefits of additional storage size and faster loading times, but with this, you could keep your entire game library on one little portable SSD that you keep in your pocket and move it between multiple systems, never having to deal with installing a game each and every time you have different consoles. To really demonstrate how large games you're getting, just look at my library right here. I've got 14 games installed on this system whose stock hard drive is 1 terabyte, and it is already full. And there are so many more games I own that I want to have on it all at the same time. That's just not possible. Now, there are a lot of reasons for this. Like I mentioned earlier, there's the fact that a lot of games are starting to embrace 4K textures, which inflates their size a lot, but there's a lot of stuff that just all goes into making games bigger and bigger and bigger. For instance, you might pick up one game where, hey, it starts off at a modest 40, maybe 60 gigs, but as time goes on and expansions come out, it gets even bigger. A great example of this is Assassin's Creed Odyssey, where the DLC alone, not the base game's 66, the DLC all put together is 30 gigs, pushing it all the way up to being basically a 100 gigabyte game. And some games don't even need DLC to get that large. I mean, Red Dead Redemption 2 is this awesome, huge, open world kind of style game, beautiful graphics, and just happens to be 117 gigs by itself. Now, not every single game is going to get that large, but still, that adds up. I mean, for every title you have that gets that big in size, that's removing how many other games that you wish you could have installed at the same time. And there used to be a time when you could be like, oh, well, I'll buy some physical games that'll cut down on some of the size. That's not even an option anymore. Disk read speeds are so slow that at this point, to make sure that games actually load at a reasonable speed, every game you buy physically is just basically installing the entire disk on the hard drive, still taking up the same amount of room. And this problem is not unique to just current systems. I mean, it's great that the PS5 and Xbox Project Scarlet are going to be making use of SSDs, but chances are they're probably going to ship again with 1 terabyte size, maybe 2. And the thing is, these systems have already talked about the fact that they're going to be backwards compatible with the current console. So if you want to maintain the entire library you have on your current system and bring that over to the next generation one and still have room for all the new games you're going to play, that's not going to be enough. And this use goes beyond gaming. In fact, T5s are what we use around the office when we're filming. In fact, this camera right here is recording to a T5 right now. And what's awesome about that is it not only gives us a way to easily move that data around, but we can edit from multiple stations, change which one we're doing it, take our work home. It just ends up making the editing process for making videos like this a lot easier. The point is, gaming technology is finally catching up when it comes to storage, and it's something that you can take advantage of now with a Samsung T5.